Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time to share more of your insights on the future of higher education. But before we dive in, could you introduce yourself, share a bit more about your background and your experience?
Thank you, and thank you for the invitation to come here and discuss this topic that is really of great importance to me. About myself, I've been pretty much most of my life in higher education. I call myself sometimes a professional student. I love being in a university. That's probably one of the reasons why I stayed, except for, a few stints here and there in management consulting, international development, and etc. But primarily, most of my career has been in higher education institution. I am originally from Italy, came to the US when I was 23. After my undergraduate degree, I came primarily for a year to do some graduate education, and then I fell in love with the country and with the opportunity to change things quickly. I learned that if you have ideas in the US, you are generally given a lot of opportunity and freedom to experiment. So I love that, and I ended up staying here for the rest of my life, except maybe for 3 years where I went back to Italy to work for a management consulting firm. I've done the whole assistant professor, associate professor, and then I moved to administration with an opportunity to serve as dean of the honors college, very much similar to a Busino leadership program, and I loved working with the students. Generally, they are their minds are so fresh and so excited about the future, and they have a lot of ideas. So they were really the heroes in my experience as a dean. So I liked being a dean, thanks to the students. And then I moved to be a dean, managing also faculty and programs at St. John's University. So I was the dean of the College of Professional Studies. And then Seton Hall had an opportunity for a provost position, and sounded about right, and I came here, and I loved every minute of it. But I'm also preparing for a transition next year with the opportunity to serve as the 27th president at Gonzaga University. So continuing my career in higher ed and hopefully reaching not only the East Coast, but also the West Coast now. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
It's so exciting, such exciting moves. But as you know, we've been researching the future of higher education using strategic foresight. And with that, we would love to hear your view of the changes that are on the horizon. So technology has reached pretty much every industry right now. And the continuous rise of AI is definitely not slowing that down at all. So how do you see technology being integrated into university research? And what are some, new tools, platforms that could be used for academic researchers?
Yes, so I think the integration of technology in universities is the best of any world, because it's never something that we do at a whim. We don't follow the latest trends and fad just because in universities, especially because we have limited resources, we can be always very thoughtful about the way we integrate technology in what we do. With that being said, as universities, we also have the need to innovate and be at the forefront of what is happening.
Absolutely.
So what we do is that we study the technological evolution, and so we have that opportunity to experiment. And to the extent that you were asking specifically about the area of research, that's where a lot of the experimentation can take place. So it's not just about the latest AI tool, but it's how can we use that AI tool in a way that it's helpful for maybe reducing the time that it takes to do a literature review or to get connected to the right sources of knowledge. Or how do we do a specific type of analysis in a way that we can use resources that maybe are shared and networked with other educational institutions. So I think what what will happen moving forward is we will continue forging a lot of more partnerships than what we have had in the past. In the past, the model has always been, let's bring in our own technology, let's do the research and build the infrastructure internally. And especially as you move to AI and the need to process very large data sets, you can't rely only on your internal resources.
Absolutely.
It will be too expensive for smaller institutions. So I think what we will continue to see even more is the use of what we call as a service type of tools. So we started with software as a service so that you don't have to download applications anymore. You can use an application online. So the same model app is transferable to platforms. You don't have to build your platform. You don't have to build your infrastructure anymore. You can connect to a data center that hosts that infrastructure for you. And so what you really need is really the wire, the connection to that data center, but you don't need to have resources locally.
Right.
It might be a little slower, but again, if you're thinking about the capacity and the bandwidth and the processing power that you can access is incredible.
Absolutely.
And it's also safer because then you don't have to deal with aging of resources. You don't have to deal with security, which you will always try to source from the host, the data center that is hosting your services. So I think that also our research will continue in that direction for anything that is related to digital research and data. Of course, physical research, when you need a microscope, we will need to continue to buy some of our infrastructure, but wherever we can, I think universities will continue to access it. And that gives us also a pay-per-use model, because sometimes you might need to run a data analysis only for 2 or 3 times in a year, and therefore you don't need to pay, for a lot of access and for a lot of time. So it's almost like your electrical bill, right? So if you're running a data set, if you're running research, you get that processed remotely and you pay per use. And that is going to help universities also save, hopefully, some resources.
So it sounds like technology is definitely making advancements in the educational and research side of the higher institution. But how do you see technology and these emerging platforms and these exponential advancements affecting the faculty roles amidst this also evolving, student expectation in a higher educational institute?
So I have to confess that I'm happy I'm an administrator at this point in time, because I have the greatest respect for faculty today, because their job has changed dramatically. Students have access to a lot of information and data from anywhere, and therefore their role is not anymore the one of transferring or speaking the one-to-many model about a specific topic. That's the way probably we learned, and when I was a student in college. But nowadays, the faculty is really a facilitator of a conversation in class. I do think that conversation in class needs to continue to happen. And even if you do it remotely for some classes, that's okay. There is still the need to bring people together and interact with the information and make sure that everyone understands what the source is and what the implications are. And that can only happen in the context of a classroom and a classroom interaction. But you don't have to come to class to really use the time to transfer something that students now can have access directly. And I think that's revolutionary. It's scary because most of us, and I remember going to a class and having my PowerPoint and being very clear on what I was going to say and what I knew. and now you're challenged that the topic could go in every direction and you have to show your vulnerability. You always have to be at the top of whatever changes in your field. But for every faculty member, this is also an opportunity to grow. My best classes have always been the ones where students have challenged me, and the discussion went in something that is more constructive. So I see this as an opportunity to continue to do more of that. And I also see it as an opportunity for the students to use that time to really be focused on the topic. So one drawback of what we have now is we have access to everything, but we don't pay attention to anything. And I like to say most of the time, look, if information access was the way we learn, well, we have had libraries for a very long time. You just go in the library and you have all the books available to you, but that's not the way we learn. We really learn with this conversation that you and I are having, with the experiences of other students and in the classroom together with the professor. And I think that will not change. It might change that in some cases we might not be exactly close together. We might be an hologram of us speaking to each other. But that level of interaction and that looking at each other and paying attention to what you're saying and what I'm saying, I think that's here to stay.
Yes, I agree. I think that personal connections that are made in the classroom is really what makes the learning experience truly meaningful. And I think that, the shift of the faculty role towards more of a mentor is really a key aspect in this change. And building off of that, how do you see how realistic is kind of the rise of an AI-driven university as a whole?
Yeah, so that could be a model. I mean, I think it's a very interesting one, probably one where I would not want to be at, because I wouldn't know anymore what's real and what's an hallucination of AI. I actually think about another type of university. I'm hopeful that one day we will have an idea university as opposed to an AI university. And let me explain what I see as a difference. I see idea. I see it as an acronym for innovation, design, entrepreneurship, and the arts. And I think our role as a university is to be able to merge all of that in the same space. Innovation, there is a lot of AI in innovation, and AI can be very helpful in the brainstorming or generating millions of ideas that then you can, through your design, your entrepreneurial skills, bring it to fruition in a way that solves societal problems. Connected to that, the arts, though, brings me back to the humanities. And I think what we forget with AI, because it seems and sounds so human, right? You tell them you're a woman today or you are 12 years old today and give me an answer to my question, and you feel like, oh, I'm interacting with a person. In reality, it's really not a person that you're interacting with. You're interacted with a sophisticated language model that knows how to combine words because it has studied how language works, but you're not interacting with a person. And I think that humanity, that person, that ability to think and to discriminate between information that is real and what is not real, and what's a figment of your imagination or the AI imagination, is something that will be unique and differentiating, because sometimes we're not able to do that unless we have that knowledge base, and that knowledge base comes from a careful study of the humanities, literature, and our history.
Absolutely.
So I think for me, the best university is one that takes innovation technology, brings it forward, transforms it through entrepreneurship and design in applications that are useful for society, but everything at the service of humanity.
Absolutely. Building off that model, where do you see potential industry partnerships just, coming alongside of our students and helping them perform well academically and in the professional world?
Yeah, so interacting with industry, it's really the way that our students can learn how to transfer the concept that they're learning in the classroom to practices. So I think that collaboration could extend to multiple points of touch, not just at the end when you get the internship in your last year because you're about to get a job, but hopefully throughout the curriculum. Some universities, Stanford, I recall, some time ago, had started looking and experimenting with something that was called the open loop learning model, which was such that changing the paradigm from a 4 years education to you start your education today, then you go outside in a job market for a year, and then you come back, and still your degree will just expand, but you go in and out to have those experiences. Unfortunately, it didn't work out just for logistics, right? Students want to get a degree. There is a something that we measure university success by, which is called retention and graduation rate. So all of this was getting mixed up, but the concept is very important.
Absolutely.
This continuous interaction with partners is something that I think nowadays we can do even better because we have the technology. And so a student could really miss 1 or 2 classes because they're being recorded or because they can listen to them online and be at a client site and then come back and share what they learned in the classroom. Companies, we were chatting before with one of your colleagues at a PwC cards. That reminds me, management consulting used to have this model where you spent 4 days at the client and Fridays in the office. You go back and go around the room and share what you learned at the client with other fellows consultants. I think the model is similar here. We could have students that have more opportunities to be embedded in organizations and then use the classroom as the moment where you debrief and discuss what you learned. And that's crucial because that way you know immediately that what you're learning, and that seems very theoretical as you're learning it in the classroom, it's actually very practical. Because remember, there is nothing like theory to make a good practice. So
Absolutely. With this further convergence of technology in higher education is probably going to bring a rise of, AI integration into the classroom. So what are some proactive steps that universities can take now to ensure that their AI usage and AI decision-making is transparent and remains ethical and free from bias?
Yes. So I actually was reading an article that came up a couple of days ago about a student at Brown University that used an AI tool to do an assessment of all the jobs and job descriptions of faculty and administrators at Brown. And he then asked a question by sending an email to the entire university to comment on whether what the AI had described about their job description, if it was correct, and to justify how they were spending their time. I mean, this is connected with other events that are going on that you've been reading about. But I want to take that story because I think it's really interesting for us to look at. The assumption, and the student was working on a journalistic project, so he had the journalistic freedom to do that and then to send that email, or that's still, I think, it's still under discussion. But what the student assumption is that a job description or whatever analysis that an AI tool can do of the job descriptions and represents what really goes on in a university, so that we are what our job description says that we do. Yes. And I would argue that a university is a community. And it's not just what my job description says that describe what the university is, the type of relations and the type of learning that goes on. And so if you only take the view of the AI system and the technology, which is how do I improve efficiency, well, you're going to find that technology is very helpful. But if you want to improve effectiveness, and if you really say that my goal is not efficiency, but my goal is building a community and the common good of an institution and creating connections and relationships that make our students unique, then the AI tool is only some tool that can give you a picture, but it doesn't give you the full description of what a job is or what we do. So just to give you an example, one thing that I think the student miscalculated was, I mean, quite frankly, when do we look at job description? The moment we are hired,
Yes.
right? So that's when the job description is very important. And then the moment in which maybe we're looking at, is your performance not that good? So I have to go back to your job description again. But our jobs every day are very dynamic.
Yes.
They are interactions
Absolutely.
that happen and etc. And that cannot be encapsulated only by the technology. So we have to be careful that there is this difference between doing and being. And as universities, we are a place where our students not only do, but also they are and they become.
Absolutely. It sounds like it's more of a tool to use.
Yes, it's a tool to use. It's might or might not be as transparent. Unfortunately, as you know, we don't know very much how the machine learning algorithm works. So there is a movement now that it's going from let's have smaller training models and AI interfaces trained on the data that we only know it's from a specific data set or institution. That way we have a higher level of accuracy, which diminishes a lot the capability of the tools, but at least it gives you a little bit more transparency or trust in what the outcome will be.
That's great. So we have talked a lot about how AI is impacting higher education, but we know that's not the only thing changing the current landscape. With the rise of alternatives, such as, micro-credentials, certifications, and growing apprenticeship opportunities, how can a university balance their academic and social role in this changing landscape?
Yes, that is a challenge that we need to embrace, and rather quickly, I would say, because we see a lot of those credentials and certificates and badging appearing from anywhere.
Yes.
So is the seasonal credential and badge more valuable than a LinkedIn learning or a Google badge?
Absolutely.
Well, that's certainly something that we need to be aware and tackle. But we also need to understand that there is a difference between preparing for specific skills, which is where I think a lot of those badges and credentials are helpful, and then creating the learning experience in the classroom. And as we discussed before, I think that's something that higher ed institutions do exceptionally well. Yeah. You already have a selection and screening of the source of knowledge, because professors, to be able to be in a classroom, have to go through various years of education and screening, and therefore you have the reliability of the source, the ability to connect with the students on multiple levels. We, especially in Catholic institution, we like to think about 360 degrees education of the whole person. Absolutely. Because we focus not just on the mind, but also on the heart and the spirit. And credentials are just plus that we can and should focus on, because it can give us exactly what we need, the skill that we need at a specific point in time. But that's good for a limited time. Your education instead is what the overall experience and Absolutely. What you do here.
Absolutely. What role do you think AI could play in that balance act?
It can help us, for example, identify what credentials are needed. It can help us, if you try, you can maybe create a syllabus very quickly on the latest topics that the students need to be informed about. And so it creates some efficiency in us preparing the information that we need to now deliver to the students, which gives us a lot of more time to do other interesting things and discussions with the students. So I think it will make us more efficient, but the way we'll be better in the classroom is because now we're more effective with the type of interaction that we can have.
Absolutely. Yeah, it leads the way to more of an experiential learning environment in the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard more and more from my colleagues who are blessed with being in the classroom every day that in courses where you have to work on strategic planning for to teach the students how to develop a strategic plan or to develop a SWOT analysis or the like. There are more and more tasking the students with doing that independently and then doing it with an AI tool and then using the tool to compare and contrast and see what differences there are. So I think those are great experiences. I myself, I've been using, sometimes I write something and I ask for feedback. And I have to prepare, one thing that the professors are doing more and more, and I certainly appreciate that, especially having come from an educational system in Italy where all of your exams were both in writing and oral exams. A lot of professors are moving it into oral exams, and I think that's beautiful. It might take a long time, unfortunately, but you can time it correctly. 5-10 minutes, you already know what the student knows. And I think that's a beautiful interaction that we have, because now, in one way, you want to check that the student has learned what they said they were going to learn, but it gives that opportunity for that exchange.
Absolutely.
And how do you prepare for that? I mean, you can prepare by having an interaction with ChatGPT as you're driving, and ask ChatGPT to ask you questions to prepare for an exam. And I think those are beautiful tools that enable us to personalize our preparation.
Yes. And it provides that individualized support almost for every student. Right. So with all of the changes that we've been talking about, the shifting faculty roles, the alternative credentialing systems, and, the ultimate rise of AI in higher education, there's going to be a need for a sustained financial support. So what are some of the best ways that universities can continue to persuade donors during this shifting landscape?
That's a very difficult question, because clearly we see a shift and we see a business model that needs rethinking. I am still convinced it's not going to go anywhere, but we will have to change.
Yes.
We will have to change what we do. Now, usually donors and philanthropists and those who support the university, the reason why they come back is, because they had a great experience with the university and they want to continue and provide that opportunity, pass it on to the future generations, but also because they believe they can help build the future. And to the extent that we can continue to convince that what we do here is in fact future looking, it's really benefiting from the past and the tradition and the knowledge that we have, but we're also understanding how it can shape the future. Donors will react to those ideas of having this ability to shape the future. And so the ability to innovate and to remain ahead of the curve will convince them to join in that pathway. I think what we need to also remind them, though, is sometimes investors and philanthropists talk about return on investment.
Yes.
And when you come to an academic institution, you're not making an investment with calculating an ROI per se, right? That's not you put money here and you're going to get a 4%, 5%, 10% return. That's what you do in the stock market. What you are doing with philanthropy and helping an institution prepare the future generations, you're really investing in a mission. You're investing in ideas that the only way to create a great future is really investing in people. And I think that's why we will continue to have donors that are interested in investing in universities, because they know that the future of the world depends on the students and the mind of the students that are formed here. And this is a great way to shape those minds and continue to do good. So while it will be more challenging, because we will be asking them more and more support because of the changing in the business model that makes everything much more competitive and costly. I do think we will continue to have a great affection and support for the universities, and especially those who are able to make a compelling statement about their vision for the future.
It's all about the blend between the mission and the integrating the modern technologies to stay ahead of the curve. It's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciated everything you had to say. It's been a great conversation, and I know that we've definitely learned a lot from this. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity, and good luck with your foresight.
Thank you.